Hello. Thanks you everyone for coming out and braving the rains tonight. Joel Anderson, Director at Archway Gallery, on behalf of our 30-plus artists, welcome and thank you for coming tonight. This is our PrintHouston or Ink&Image show in collaboration with PrintHouston. Before we start talking about the artwork itself, just a few announcements, as usual. We'll start with furthest in the future first. So we're going to be shifting our usual first Saturday openings to the second Saturday for the next few months. So July is our juried exhibition. We got 4th of July we're competing with. August we yield to White Linen Night, and then September is Labor Day already. So for July, August, September, it's going to be the second Saturday that we'll be here for the exhibitions. On the 19th, the afternoon of Father's Day, we're going to give a little special farewell to former member Peggy Sexton. So we'll have a celebration of life here in the
18th. Is the
Sunday, the 18th. From 1 to 4 p.m. So you're very welcome to come and partake in that. There will be food and remembrances for Peggy. The 17th, which is the Saturday, from 11 to 1, we'll be having a printmaking workshop here at the gallery. So we'll have a few members from the team doing demonstrations on the 17th. I want everyone to set their alarm clocks and DVRs for Monday the 12th. We're going to have Channel 26 here. Ruben in the morning will be here live, and we'll be doing some more demonstrations. I believe starting at 6:15 for about a good hour and a half throughout the morning. So that should be fun. And since Donna Perkins is involved in the exhibition, we've got dancing going on this month. So on the 9th and the 10th, we have a couple of dance performances, contemporary dance, and I'll maybe let Donna talk about that when she gets up to talk. That brings us to tonight. So the Ink&Image show, we're going to have each of the artists talk a little bit about their process and their work, and since I've got the mic and my last name starts with A, I'm going first. So I've got 7 pieces in the show. I'm the encaustic guy in the group. So I kind of utilize 3 different techniques in my pieces. So the first, kind of a traditional print technique. I took a cardstock stencil, inked it up, layer that on top of rice paper to get the image transfer, and then built the painting up on top of that. The second technique I was using was my image transfers. So from digital diagrams, I print that out on transfer paper, and then I kind of essentially rub that into the encaustic to get the images on the medium. And the third technique doesn't really have anything to do with printmaking, but it's fun. So I've been exploring some different things for my show and coming up in January. So Shellac Burns is what I've been playing with. So I take shellac and lather that on top of the artwork and light the whole thing on fire, and kind of manipulate that a little bit with the blowtorch. And that kind of gives a little, fun little abstract, crinkly effect. I think most noticeably on the piece above the computer behind our desk. So that's what I did. Next on the alphabetical list, Christy Coker.
Again, welcome everyone. Also, I wanted to let you know that there is a handout over there if anybody's interested in a little more detailed explanation of each of our techniques. So feel free to take one. And then also there's some folders that gives a little more information. So those are on the desk. All right, I'm basically a painter. I draw and paint. That's my field of focus usually. And so for this group show, I was just wanting to stretch and explore. And for those of you who aren't aware, this is PrintHouston month. And it's a citywide celebration of the art form of printmaking. And there are a lot of venues here in the city where you can go and see lots of different types of printmaking. So anyway, Mary Lee is our gallery, and Kevin are both our gallery printmakers. And so as part of that celebration with PrintHouston, several of us volunteered to be part of the printmaking group for this show. And so for me, I'm not I've dabbled with printmaking, but it's not my comfort zone, so it was a stretch, and it was fun to explore, and I felt like it would help me expand creatively. So the techniques that I have examples of here are some monotypes and etchings, which is the intaglio process, and some collagraphs. So the collagraphs are back there, and the basic way those are handled is that you create a design from, I use cardboard, cut out pieces, and then you print from that. That's your base. I did an embossed as well as a printed version of that design. I also, the intaglio I mentioned, that's a process where you use some acid and you scratch and you carve into a plate, and then you rub your ink on it, you wipe the ink away, and when you put the paper down and press, where the ink stayed in the grooves, that's where your print comes from. And then the final thing that I did were these monotypes. Some people call them monoprints, but more technically monotype would be the word to use for this version. That means they're one of a kind. Most types of printmaking, you can make multiple images of a particular design, but with monoprints, mono meaning one, you can only do one. Sometimes you can get a ghost of a second try, a second pull, but in general it's one. And so you roll or what I did was I rolled the ink onto the inking slab, then I used a blending stump, which I used for pastel drawing. You could use a Q-tip, you could use your fingers, whatever, to pull away ink. So you're basically drawing, and then you put your paper on and you pull your print. And then a lot of times monoprints and monotypes are embellished with color using acrylics or color pencil or whatever. I used acrylics. Another version, which I did not do, would be maybe even more painterly, would be to paint with your brush using multiple colors on there and then pull your print from that. So that's just kind of it in a nutshell. Yes?
Why do you only, could you make multiple prints if you wanted to?
No, it's not physically. With most types of printmaking, you have a design that's on plate, and that can be used over and over. You can change your colors of ink, you can do it a number of times, but with the monoprints and the monotypes, it's wet. It's wet on the plate, and so when you print it, the ink and the paint, whatever you've used, is gone. And like I said, sometimes you can do a second one, but it's going to be very faint, and they call that a ghost. And sometimes those turn out okay, but mine didn't. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, that's my process. And who's next?
I'm Mary Lee Gray, and I am a printmaker primarily. And I mostly use wood and linoleum to make the prints. They're relief prints. I cut away part of the wood or part of the linoleum. What's raised, I ink with a brayer or roller, put a piece of paper on top of it, put pressure on that, and make the prints. These two prints over here are mine, black and white. Everything black obviously is raised, so it's white. You can see the color of the paper, and it has been cut away, so you can see it. I do sometimes monoprints, and I have one in the corner here. It's a monoprint with graphite or pencil drawing in it on it also. It's actually a monoprint that's been layered. I print, do another print on top of that, and you can see the layer on this. Everything else in the show that I have in the show are linoleum cuts. And the another thing I do use sometimes, and use to show from this, the first hand over there is mine, and I use pastel on the back. the yellow that's on this large print, that's pastel, which I have to put on first and fix it so it wouldn't smear all over the place, and then printed the two parts of the linoleum cut. And anyway, we're so glad you came. You need a star for getting here in that rain.
Wait a minute, was that applause for me or was it the pre or the after? Okay. Anyway, again, oh, thank you. Anyway, I'm Cheryl Rossetti, and because I love to draw people and I love to draw architecture, my work is the same here for this show, except I drew it on scratch foam. And I've done printmaking for minimum 30 years, but it's one of these on and off things that I go back to it. No matter what I do, I go back to it. I draw the figure on a piece of pliable scratch foam. It's an art foam. I press in, I draw it, I cut it out, I ink it with a brayer, and I've used acrylics on all of my work here tonight. And then I take it and I place it on a piece of either mat board or one of my tons of different types of rice papers. And then I press it in with the baren, press, lift the image, and I have an image there. When I use that same cut again, I don't re-ink it, and I put it on. Someone had mentioned the word ghost, and that's the ghost of it. It's a little lighter thing. So anyway, enjoy the show, and thank you for coming.
Good evening. Hello. Thank you. I came to printmaking actually through Print Matters, which we have to thank a little bit for this whole PrintHouston affair, which is really awesome. Hope y'all are enjoying it. The prints that I'm working on right now are all relief prints. They're done on wood blocks that I carve with gouges. I'm drawn to that form of printmaking basically because of my history. My father was a woodworker. I spent a lot of time in the shop, you know, making messes, cleaning up messes, and doing a lot of things. But that's something that I like to do when I'm working on these images. Now, the series that I have up tonight are all based on exploration of astronomy. They're all the planets that were known by people for forever, basically. They're all the known planets of the primitive peoples of the world. And what I've tried to do here is interject concepts of different cultures and how we view different things. So that's basically what I built. Thank you.
Thanks, I'm Carol Joyner. I'm primarily a painter. I've done some printing in the past, but my experience in that is somewhat limited. For this show, and I also echo what Christy said, so I wanted to do this because it was a way to stretch myself and do something different. In this show, I have 8 pieces. Some of those are traditional monotype prints on regular paper, and in that process I create the design using acrylic paints on an acrylic plate or a plexiglass plate, and then I put a dampened paper over it and put it through a roller, and that's as Christy was explaining, then that lifts the paint off of the plate onto onto the paper. So what you really get when you do that is you get a mirror image. And when you peel the paper off, you've got a mirror image of what your design is. And then I've also done, I did some monotype prints using a waxed surface paper and a water-based medium that I was using on the plate, there's a resist that happens between the water-based medium and the waxy on the surface of the paper. So when you pull it off, you have no idea. I had no idea what I was going to get, because of the interaction of those two. And sometimes just it creates accidental, interesting effects from doing that. And then the third type of print that I have in here are just traditional linoleum prints. And in those, we take a piece of linoleum, thick piece of linoleum, or a linoleum block, and then carve out with a special tool the pattern in there. And so what is carved out then leaves the paper showing, and the print part is what was the original surface of the linoleum. So it's a great experience for me, and I'll probably do this again. So,
I want to thank PrintHouston, which is a citywide celebration of the printmaking process. And we have over there some PrintHouston folders. They're trifold, and they have all the different things that are happening. There's another thing happening tonight on Heights Boulevard, Tea and Art. It's where the old 18 cans used to be. And so I think that goes until 10, so if anybody is going up there. Catherine Fields is the president of Print Matters, and I took a class from her this last semester. It was a very good class, and they've got really great equipment there, so if anybody's interested in that, I recommend it. Most of my stuff is mono printing because I am basically a painter. I only have one Talio print up there that is etched away, but everything else is monoprints. I want to invite you to come to the dance next Friday and Saturday. It will start at 7:30. Tony Ballier is a local choreographer, dancer, and she teaches some at University of Houston and is well known in town. So come out, 7:30. It's a $10 donation requested, just a suggested requested. But come and enjoy. It will be right here, and you will be up close to the dancers. So thank you for being here. Are there any other questions, comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
For the people that have never done it before, did you feel like what you did was successful, and would you do it again?
I think that all of us experimented with different types, but I think because of our art background, we all... I think we all had toyed with printmaking before, just a bit, but it's not where we're most comfortable. I know I'm not a Harold. We're painters.
What I was going to say is that I did a zillion prints.
Yes, that's what I was going to say too.
And they're quite successful.
Yes.
That is, I think, actually, I think it was Mary Lee that I made the comment to about, I had to do so many prints, before I got a successful one. And she kind of suggested that even for very experienced printmakers like her, that's kind of built into the process.
Yes, I'm thinking collage should be our next picture. Any other questions? Thank you all for coming out.